Late Night Health continues with our friend Michelle Chaffee. She's the founder and CEO of Hauschka, and it's a patient advocacy company that helps people traverse the labyrinth of maze, we'll call it a maze, of the healthcare system in the United States. And Michelle, you yourself, I was worried about you. I told you that, right? Michelle was on the show about, 6 weeks ago, Michelle? Maybe?
I think so.
Yeah, 6-7 weeks ago. And I'm going to truncate the story, but Michelle went to the doctor, had an MRI, was told that there was something on her ovary. And but he'd seen hundreds of these, if not thousands, don't worry. And she and her husband went on vacation. While on vacation, she gets a call from the doctor's office. And did they say it over the phone, you have ovarian cancer?
Yep, they did.
Oh, that was nice. And you cut your vacation short, went back, and just give us a synopsis of what happened at that point.
My husband and I were in Las Vegas, and so we left the very next day, to come back home. And 6 weeks after that, I had surgery to, remove my other ovary and my uterus. And, then they sent that to pathology. And, then that pathology came back a couple weeks after that. And thank God it was all negative. So that I was very grateful for.
Of course. And at the same time, they asked you, what about this other mass? What do you want to do about that? Something that they'd never even told you about.
Yeah, so I had, the first time I went to the oncologist, obviously, they did a CT to see if there was anything else there, and I was told everything was clear and looked good. And it was actually, probably 7 or 8 weeks ago at my 3-month follow-up, because now every 3 months I have to go and have a scan and lab work, to monitor for recurrence. And on that scan, I was told, when I called to see the results, that, there was a mass, there was a lesion in my abdomen, and that good news, the ones in your lung and your liver haven't grown any. So I was not aware of those lesions until that point. So obviously that was very concerning to me. I insisted on having a biopsy on the lesion that was in my abdomen, and that came back negative as well. So,
which is terrific. What about the other ones?
They just watch them. I think that's just a part of what a lot of cancer survivors have to live with. There can be things that show up on a scan that are too small really to biopsy or go do anything with, so they just watch them and measure them and kind of make sure they don't grow, and check labs that are indicators of potential recurrence. And that's it. I mean, that's been the biggest thing, is just learning to live with that variability.
Also, that length of time, 6 weeks, you came back to the time that you had the surgery. That must have been hell on wheels for you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because if I had been told, before I was diagnosed, that I would have to endure something like that, I would have said, like you're saying, there's no way, that would make me crazy. I couldn't stand not knowing, because it is 6 weeks of having virtually no idea if you have cancer everywhere or if it was just contained in that one place. But, I think for me, I was still kind of reeling. I was in a fair amount of shock. I was really busy, so I just kind of focused on, trying to get as much done as I could in preparation for, a worst-case scenario, that it would have been everywhere, and that, if I would have had to do chemo or radiation, I would have been somewhat incapacitated. So I just focused on, thinking of it as, okay, this is 6 weeks where I feel pretty good, and I can, get things done in the event of, having to go through some more significant debilitating therapy.
So you formed Hauschka before or after this?
Before. I mean, it's just ironic that, that I was using it for myself. I started what now is Hauschka about 2 years ago when I had a professional patient advocacy business, and I developed it to, better keep family care teams connected, professional healthcare providers connected, and to empower individuals to maintain their own medical records and health records, and things like, biometrics, lab results, things that are really important to prevent a health crisis. So it worked great for my clients and their families, and more people wanted to use it. So, then I redeveloped it and just was getting ready to launch it to patients and caregivers everywhere when I was diagnosed.
Amazing. And my experience with healthcare today, and actually for the last 20 years, is that the squeaky wheel gets it turned. My mother had complained, for example, this was about 15, 16 years ago. She complained to her physicians that she had a problem, and they actually wrote on her medical charts, "cranky old lady." Nothing wrong.
My.
And she ended up having a perforated colon. And had I not interjected and said, "You're seeing her today at 2, be on time," which they were not, by the way, they wouldn't, she would have died years earlier, because that's a serious condition, obviously. Right? So is that true today, or does Hauschka take over? And right now I think you're only in the Minnesota area, but you're going to be expanding soon.
Yeah, well, and I mean, since it's a web-based software platform, so I actually have people all over the country using it now. We're just getting ready to launch. So from the Hauschka.com site, individuals can log in, register, and set up their own account. So that'll be ready in a couple of weeks. But, people from all over the country can utilize the software platform, which, to your point, I've always known as a healthcare provider that it's really important to be the squeaky wheel, like you said. Also, communicating your squeakiness is really important to get an effective, result from your care team. So I developed Hauschka to empower individuals, because it's daunting. If you're not a healthcare professional, it can be really, really overwhelming. It is even as a healthcare professional. But Hauschka is designed to give individuals a place to take ownership of their medical records, their lab reports, to decide who they want in their care team, whether that's, traditional practitioners, whether it's alternative practitioners. You decide who is your best healthcare team. You invite them in and share your information with those people. So the individuals are deciding, and it's so important to check your medical records, because also in this process, I requested all my records like I always do, and I maintain them myself in Hauschka. And there were several really, really critical mistakes in those records that I had to have amended. So I know it's a lot of work and it seems overwhelming, but it's really important that individuals at least look at their records and make sure that they're correct.
It's amazing to me in the 21st century that these kind of clerical errors, and I'll be kind to say that, still happen. I mean, we're all human, we all make mistakes. But when we're talking about the health and well-being of an individual, there is no room for error.
No, and a small error can make a big difference. I mean, 2 of the errors that were in my report was the date of my diagnosis and surgery, and they were off by 5 years on that. And the size of my tumor, and they were off 10 centimeters on that. And those are pretty significant errors. And usually it's because of, they're transcribing. The radiologist is transcribing it, so it's voice recognition.
Right.
But they should be checking it before they actually enter it into a record. And it's just the reality. Like, I'm a healthcare professional. Some of my best friends are doctors, and they're wonderful, and they care, and they're conscientious. But even with everybody's best efforts, the system is big. And sometimes they're overwhelmed, and sometimes, things don't get checked the way that they should. And I think no matter how much we want to put it on a healthcare system or we wish it would be different, we have to be engaged in that process.
And we have to, as you said, we have to participate. Can you use Hauschka to be that squeaky wheel I was talking about, to get an appointment faster?
Well, you can use it to, I think, by feeling empowered and keeping track of your own records is a start. Because being the squeaky wheel requires you to have some knowledge of the healthcare system and to really know yourself and to really know what's in your records and what members of your care team are saying. So in that respect, it's a tool for, individuals to keep track of all of those things and to connect their care team. And I am working on online support groups as well, caregiver support groups that people will be able to go to the Hauschka site and sign up for different online caregiver support groups that I'll be facilitating, and some other healthcare professionals that I know will be facilitating. So we're really trying to, create a one-stop shop for patients and caregivers to get the education they need, to have the tools to better manage their health, and to feel empowered. Feeling
empowered and making choices. I mean, we talked with former Dr. William Rader earlier today about stem cell research and stem cell actual programs, giving the patient a decision to say, patients given a diagnosis go home and die, or you can try, stem cell therapies. Not here in the U.S., you have to go elsewhere, but the success rate is remarkable. And being able to be empowered to do something like that, I think, is very important.
Absolutely, and especially now that I've kind of been tossed into, the world of cancer and meeting other cancer survivors. I know cancer survivors that are funding their own research and their own trials that they're participating in.
Amazing.
And are traveling all over the country to participate in really, really promising trials using immunotherapy and different things like that.
Michelle, we're out of time today. If somebody is interested in Hauschka, it's Hauschka, ALSKA.com.
Absolutely, and they can send me an email through the site or subscribe to my newsletters and be the first to know when they can sign up.
And she writes some really great articles, which I'm gonna ask you to hold on so we can see if we can reprint those on Late Night Health. Late Night Health continues with Robert Clancy as we talk about honesty. Don't go away, more coming up.